DeSantis launched his campaign on Twitter in one of those Twitter spaces. You heard about this, right, Kurt? And so, you know what a Twitter space is? It's like they do an audio podcast right on Twitter live. And there was technical glitches, right? It says Elon Musk insists that Ron DeSantis' disastrous tweet launch was a success, the top story on earth. So Mr. DeSantis finally launched his 2024 campaign to seek Republican. Blah, blah, blah. The Florida governor chose to appear at an audio-only Twitter Spaces event with Elon Musk as the moderator and moderator David Sachs. So Elon Musk was there. The moderator was David Sachs. You know, he's been on the show, and he's that big venture capitalist guy. I think anyway. Did he start calling? I don't know. Which ended up being dodged by so they had technical difficulties when they tried this.
Okay.
And then the corporate media puke started piling on, right?
Yes.
Hey, BuzzFeed exploding a watermelon hit 820,000 concurrent viewers in 2016.
What does that mean?
So they're trying to say that just because there was 600,000 original people watching that space, right? And then this guy says there was 820 viewers when they exploded a watermelon. Like that doesn't mean he's trying to downplay it, right?
That's still better than the regular TV news.
I know. And then Chris Hayes says, I'm sorry, but this is an astoundingly humiliating degree of incompetence, unspinnable failure, total and complete, fully pub. So this is a guy.
Russiagate?
So is it Russiagate you're talking about? So this is a guy who's in dying media. And the only reason you know who Chris Hayes is because someone chose to put him on television. If someone didn't choose to give him that platform, you would never know who Chris Hayes was. Because if he had talent enough to do it himself, he would go do it himself like we do here. Or Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan makes way more money than Chris Hayes. He doesn't need MSNBC. Chris Hayes needs MSNBC. Okay? So that's why this is so funny, is because their Twitter Spaces, which was an unspinnable failure, gets better ratings than what he does. I'll show you. They're mad because social media is now much bigger than legacy media. That's what Chris Hayes is called. It's called legacy media. What he's on. It's called legacy media. It's the media.
What a legacy.
What a legacy of lying and being wrong about everything. Right now, they're currently lying to you about Ukraine. MSNBC, 1.165 million viewers. Twitter, 6.5 million viewers. MSNBC is the second most watched basic cable network in prime time. It averaged 1.165 million total. So they got up to 6.5 million viewers for their spaces after they got the technical problems worked out. So if it's an astoundingly humiliating degree of incompetence, then why is their audience 5 times bigger than MSNBC's audience? 6 times bigger? Interviewing presidential candidates? That seems like direct competition with what you do, doesn't it? So that was just Chris Hayes trying to shit on alternative media because because if he has to rely on alternative media, no one will give a shit about what he has to say. The only reason anyone cares about what Chris Hayes has to say is because he's propped up by the military-industrial complex, Big Pharma, and Wall Street on MSNBC. It's got Microsoft right in the name.
Did I tell you that time I fell asleep in a hotel? It was like Chris Hayes, then Rachel Maddow, then Chris Matthews. And it looked like time-lapse footage of a lesbian aging.
Kyle Griffin, he's a MSNBC hacker. He says New York Times called the DeSantis announcement a fiasco. NBC calls it a meltdown. The Washington Post calls it awkward. Political calls it horrendous. Elon Musk calls it massive attention. Because that's what it is. And everybody's talking about it.
I mean, I'll have to take your word for it, Kyle Griffin, because I don't look at any of those things. Oh, Politico didn't like it? No shit.
So the event began late. The first iteration of a chat room crashed and had to be rebooted, and the sound repeatedly dropped out, leaving long silences and echoes. And yet 6 million people still wanted to hear it because it wasn't coming filtered through corporate media.
Think of it how when they wanted to keep the cameras on Trump's empty podium.
Yes!
Instead of Bernie talking, you, the news, are Bernie in this case. I would rather hear technical difficulties
They'd rather hear
than your thoughts.
So Mr. DeSantis had to abruptly leave the event to take part in a more conventional television interview on Fox News. Despite the issue, Musk and Mr. Sachs were determined to put on a positive face on the debacle. Debacle! They're still saying that.
The American election?
I think you broke the internet there. We had 500,000 people in one Twitter space, and it was growing by like 50,000 a minute, Mr. Sachs said at one point, attempting to make light of the teething problems. You can tell by some of the mistakes that this is real. Mr. DeSantis' campaign press secretary, Brian Griffin, also tried to downplay the issue, tweeting, "There was so much enthusiasm for Governor DeSantis' vision for our great American government. Washington is next. 1 million raised online in 1 hour and counting. That ain't nothing." Meanwhile, Mr. Trump trolled the Florida governor. So Trump, deriding him on Truth Social, a thing that less people watch than even Chris Hayes, and posting vicious memes of exploding Tesla rockets and a spoof version of the spaces. Look at this is what he posted. This George Soros, Klaus, Dick Cheney, Adolf Hitler, and the devil. That's funny. Trump tweeted that out. As disaster trended on Twitter, Democrats Joe Biden and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez joined in the ridicule, as did Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, and George Santos, while the launch was labeled variously a fiasco. Okay, so there you go. So I guess 6 million people would rather listen to technical difficulties than listen to Chris Hayes.
Those are the bottom lines.
Yeah, that's
well, was DeSantis going to come out as running for president and have some positive reviews from any of these people?
No.
This is probably one of the best reviews he could have got. Technical difficulties.
That's right. Hey, everybody, check out my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny, only $10. And come see us live in Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Baltimore, San Francisco, Huntington Beach, and more. Pottstown, even. Go to jimmydore.com for a list of all of our things and see you there.